Hello, guys, and welcome back to J is for Justice. If you missed our Patreon last night, I have clipped it down, and we're going to go over the Kouri Richins bail hearing. Just the part where the detective testifies with the prosecution and the defense. And I think, there's some key points that I noticed throughout this, and I thought it would be a good talking point to start with. And also, I wanted to also point out, if you look at the thumbnail, there was quite a transformation of Eric. Quite a difference in his appearance. And upon listening to this, finding out that he went to some kind of hunts in Mexico that were affiliated with the cartel, I think there's going to be a lot of holes in this case that give the defense an opportunity to say that maybe this was an accident or maybe this was his own doing. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you would like to join our Patreon, the link is right here below. Go to the website. It's easy. You can download the app on your phone as well. It's easy peasy. And we have a lot of fun. So I'm hoping to grow our group over there and be able to be a little more raw and unedited. It's a lot of fun. Let's get into today's video. We already know that she's been arrested for her husband dying at home of a fentanyl poisoning, right? It's because I don't know what to make of this, because I did listen a little bits and pieces, and I noticed that they're using initials, they're not using names, they're not naming her best friend. Could that change as they move forward? Is she a psycho, or is she on fentanyl? Is she an addict, or is she a psycho? Or is she both? Let's go. We're going to start this with the detective.
Good morning, Detective O'Driscoll. Can you please introduce yourself to the court and explain your relation to this case?
My name is Detective O'Driscoll. I've been with the Summit County Sheriff's Office for 7 years. I'm assigned to the Investigations Division. I was assigned to be the lead detective in this case in April of this year. This case is an active case and the investigation's ongoing.
Detective, what was the Sheriff's Office first involvement in this case?
On March 4th, 2022 at 3:22 hours, Summit County Dispatch received a 911 call regarding an unresponsive male in the Francis area.
Have you listened to that 911 call?
Yes.
Who placed that call?
The defendant, Kouri Richins.
In addition to saying that someone was unresponsive, did Ms. Richins, the defendant, identify who was unresponsive and anything else about that person's condition?
Yes, she stated that it was her husband, Eric Richins, that was unresponsive, that he was cold to the touch and not breathing.
Did EMS and police respond to that address?
Yes.
Is that the family home?
Yes.
Was a portion of the police and EMS response captured on police body camera video?
Yes, it was.
Have you reviewed that video?
Yes, I have.
On that video, what time does EMS pronounce Eric Richins dead?
03:58 hours on March 4th.
What, if anything else, does EMS say about how long he had been dead?
One of the EMS personnel made the comment that he had been dead a while.
Did the
Okay, why aren't they clarifying? Like, he had been dead a while. This whole thing didn't sit right with me, and I feel like if this chick is involved in drugs, that she might be making some kind of a deal behind the scenes. What do you guys think? And Casey?
medical exam?
Look at Smiley McSmileson. Look at him. Who is he? What does he want?
One of the EMS personnel made the comment that he had been dead a while.
Did the state medical examiner's office conduct an autopsy of Mr. Richins?
Yes, they did.
Have you reviewed the medical examiner's autopsy report
Yes.
and the toxicology report that's part of that?
Yes.
What did the medical examiner identify as the cause of death?
Drug intoxication with the specific drug being fentanyl.
I'm going to now ask you, Detective, some questions about someone with the initial CL. Do you know who I'm talking about when I say CL?
Yes, I do.
Who is CL in relation to the defendant?
CL is an associate of the defendant. She cleaned houses for the defendant's business as well as her personal home at times.
Does CL have a criminal drug history?
Yes.
Is she under supervision in a different county, a county other than Summit County?
Yes, she is.
And is that in relation to certain drug charges?
Yes.
Okay, this lady, she doesn't look good to me though. She may be a psycho, but I also see marks on her face. I don't know if she's a past addict or user. She's very thin. She's very pale to me. And I don't feel like you would have people that have criminal drug histories cleaning your house unless you're also a user. Using CL's name. Why is CL being protected at this point? If she got the drugs from CL, why are they protecting CL?
Does the court program in which she's in monitor treatment and testing, et cetera?
Yes.
Do you know how CL is performing in that program?
Based on my interactions with CL, she is progressing through the stages of that program, and that her personal outlook on her recovery is optimistic.
Have you interviewed CL in connection with this case?
Yes.
Approximately how much time have you spent interviewing her?
Over the course of multiple interviews, several hours each, I would say upwards of 10 hours.
10 hours with CL?
Was CL in custody when you interviewed her?
Yes, she was.
Was that interview captured on video and audio recording?
Yes.
What, if any, promises did you make regarding, to CL regarding her cooperation with being interviewed?
CL was not made any specific promises, but at the outset of our interviews, we explained to her that her cooperation in our investigation would result in us working with the prosecutors that were responsible for the charges she was facing.
Whatever.
Did you express to CL the seriousness of this case as well as the charges she was facing?
Yes, we expressed to her the seriousness of the charges and the possible results of those charges. As well, we impressed upon her the importance or the value of her testimony in this case as it related to the charges that she was facing, and that her testimony or any information that she may have was more important to us.
Did you stress to CL that the information you were asking her about needed to be credible and verifiable?
Yes, we told her at the beginning of our interview that any information that she may have, we would need to corroborate in order for it to be of value to us.
Did CL cooperate with being interviewed?
Yes, she did.
Did CL know Eric Richins?
Yes, CL told us that during the time that she spent cleaning the Richins home, she got to know Eric, that she felt that he was a really good person, she liked him, and she was very saddened to hear that he had passed away.
Did there come a time when investigators executed a search warrant on CL's home?
Yes.
In executing that warrant, did you make any observations consistent with CL's testimony that she felt bad about Eric Richins' death?
Yes. Inside the home, we identified a bedroom that belonged to CL. In the bedroom, there was a mirror above a desk. On the mirror were taped or affixed several inspirational quotes that seemed to relate to her recovery and her drug court program. Amongst all those inspirational quotes was a newspaper clipping of Eric Richins' obituary.
Did you get the impression that part of the reason CL cooperated is because she felt bad for Eric Richins?
Yes, in fact, she said so many times in our interviews.
Detective, I want to turn now to what, if anything, CL told you about the defendant.
Hey, love of God, our newest
requesting,
Patreon. Welcome.
that CL purchased fentanyl for the defendant. What did CL tell you?
In our interviews, CL told us that in early 2022, the defendant reached out to her either by phone call or text message requesting that she procure fentanyl for what the defendant reported was a investor who had a back injury.
And upon the defendant asking CL to get fentanyl, what did CL do?
CL told us that she reached out to an acquaintance of hers, acquaintance one, and requested that she introduce her to somebody that could sell her fentanyl.
Okay, so now we have, so what I'm kind of putting together here is we have CL who's in recovery, and she moves in and is cleaning the house for this lady. This lady probably knows she has connections. Maybe lied about a client needing the pills. Maybe it was really her. Or she got them for a client, whatever. But did she cause CL to relapse? That's what I want to know.
Did acquaintance one introduce CL to someone that could sell CL fentanyl?
Yes, CL said that acquaintance one provided her with a phone number of another acquaintance, acquaintance two,
Hey, Tiff.
who was someone that she knew could sell CL fentanyl.
And did CL say that she ultimately contacted acquaintance two?
Yes, she did.
So we had two unnamed
What,
acquaintances.
if anything, did CL say about purchasing fentanyl from acquaintance two?
CL told us that she contacted acquaintance two after receiving his phone number and asked to arrange to meet to purchase some fentanyl from him. She stated that sometime in February, she believed she met up with acquaintance two at a Maverick gas station in Draper and purchased from him 15 to 30 round green-blue pills, which she understood to be fentanyl.
Using phone records through the course of your interview with CL, were you ultimately able to narrow down on what that date was in February that CL purchased fentanyl from acquaintance two at the Maverick in Draper?
Yes, based on forensic evidence, we were able to determine that that date was February 11th, 2022.
Why are acquaintance one and acquaintance two being protected? All these people that actually did the deals are being protected. I'm sick of these deals for these people. I don't understand why they need to make a deal with all these druggies who are making, getting pills, meeting at gas stations. I mean, to buy actual fentanyl, like they're not being fooled into, oh, I want a Xanax and oh, it's got fentanyl in it, or I want an Adderall, oh, it's fentanyl. They're asking for straight up fentanyl. I think they should all be on trial. Deals? Indeed, love of God, I want to thank you. You are our newest Patreon. I'm going to celebrate your little alert.
La 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 la. You don't hold account.
Thank you for joining.
What, if anything, did CL say about what she did with the fentanyl pills that she purchased from acquaintance two?
CL told us that after purchasing the pills from acquaintance two, she returned home to her house in Heber. She said that either later that night or the next day, the defendant met her in the driveway of that home and did a hand-to-hand exchange of pills for cash.
I'm going to turn now, Detective, to some questions regarding witnesses who corroborate CL's testimony, okay?
Okay.
You mentioned acquaintance number one. Have investigators interviewed acquaintance one?
Yes.
Have you reviewed body camera, audio and video of that interview?
Yes.
Does acquaintance one corroborate CL's testimony?
Yes. She stated that CL contacted her in early 2022 and asked for someone that could sell her fentanyl. In the body cam, she also retrieves her cell phone and shows investigators the messages that corroborated that.
And what kind of messages were they?
They were messages between acquaintance 1 and CL on Facebook Messenger app.
And have you reviewed those messages?
Yes.
Read.
Is the first of those messages dated February 6, 2022 at 1:37 p.m.?
Yes.
Does it read, text me, I've got a question, won't do it on this?
Yes.
And that's CL writing acquaintance 1, asking acquaintance 1 to text CL because she didn't want to write over Facebook Messenger?
Correct.
Okay.
Did,
I just have a thought. As I'm listening to this CL, acquaintance 1, acquaintance 2, and then as we go further, we hear her best friend's not named, she just called best friend. It seems to me like there's a lot of layers of people who worked to build this Kouri up to where she could kill her husband. I feel like we should take these layers of people and wipe them out. Because then the Kouris wouldn't be able to get the fentanyls. I think this is ass backwards. I mean, I think she should definitely be punished for what she did to her husband. But just because she used an illegal drug, I don't think the people that sold it and the people that sold it to CL and the people that sold it to the acquaintance 1 and the person who sold it to acquaintance 2 should be sitting pretty. There's something ass backwards with this whole scenario. Like, in my opinion, the drug, acquaintance 1, all that shiz, they should have another trial for them. And hers should be totally separate. But they can't investigate a case without all these informants.
1 say whether or not she ever, in response, contacted CL?
Yes, she said that she then either texted or called her subsequent to her request.
You testified that acquaintance 2 sold fentanyl pills to CL at the Maverick in Draper. Have
They
investigators
should be in
interviewed
prison.
acquaintance 2?
Yes.
Have you reviewed body camera audio and video of that interview?
Yes, I have.
Is acquaintance 2 able to corroborate CL's testimony?
Yes, acquaintance 2 was able to recall that he sold fentanyl pills to a friend of acquaintance 1's in early 2022 at a Maverick gas station in Draper.
I'm going to turn our detective to some forensic data questions and whether forensic data corroborates CL's narrative, okay?
Okay.
Have you reviewed carrier records of the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And I want to just clarify one thing. I'm talking right now about carrier records, different than cell data records. We'll have an expert testify about cell data records in a moment. I'm just going to ask you about the carrier records, okay?
Okay.
She looks mean.
What, if anything, do the carrier records for the defendant's phone, or what, if anything, in the carrier records for defendant's phone corroborate CL's testimony?
The cell records from the defendant's phone show several phone calls back and forth between her and CL in early 2022.
Look, it's exhibity.
Do they show any text messages back and forth between the defendant and CL?
Yes, several.
Have you reviewed those text messages?
Exhibity.
We were only able to see the timestamps and who the sender and receiver was. We're not able to see the content of those messages because they appear to be deleted from both the defendant's phone and CL's phone.
And then CL deleted all her messages, too.
Have you reviewed the call history and carrier records of CL's phone?
Yes.
Does CL's carrier records and call history corroborate CL's testimony?
Yes.
Is there a particular set of calls on February 11th, 2022, between 5:19 p.m. and 6:52 p.m. in CL's phone history.
Yes.
Did you question CL regarding those calls?
Yes. She said those calls were to acquaintance two, and that they were to arrange the specific date and time to pick up fentanyl in Draper.
Turning now from CL's purchasing fentanyl for the defendant to the defendant's purported timeline on the night of Eric Richins' death, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that police interactions with the defendant were captured on video. Have you reviewed that video?
Yes, I have.
Did the defendant provide police with a written statement in the early morning of March 4th, 2022?
Yes, she did.
Have you reviewed that statement?
Yes.
What on the early morning of Eric Richins' death did the defendant report had happened that evening?
She stated that the last time that she saw Eric alive was between 9:30 and 9:45 p.m. She stated that before going to bed, they had had a drink together to celebrate closing on a house for her business. She said that they got in bed between 9:30 and 9:45, and that shortly after getting into bed, one of the children had a nightmare, and that the defendant got out of bed and went to be with that child in their bedroom and slept in that bedroom until 3 a.m. or around 3 a.m. when she woke. She stated she returned to her own bedroom, got into bed, and felt that Eric was cold to the touch. She stated that she turned the light on, saw that he wasn't breathing and that he didn't look normal, and that she then called 911.
Oh, yikes. Basically, he had these pills, and then she went and got in bed with one of the kids, and then came back and said, oh shit, he's dead. While you gather your thoughts on this, let's hear a word from our sponsor. I want to tell you really quick about a site that I found. It's called Deal Dash. And when I first heard about it, I was skeptical, but I had an opportunity to use it for myself, and I'm going to show you what I was able to bid on. But first, I want to show you what the site's all about. It's an auction website that's been around for the last 15 years. You can find thousands of auctions every day. They have brand new items up for bid, and the deals are incredible, almost too good to be true. We're talking about like iPad minis going for $13.24 or an Xbox X for like $45. Now, here's the catch. You do have to pay up front to bid. After signing up, you'll need to purchase a bid pack, like 400 bids for like $30. And each bid raises the price by just a penny. And the auction timer counts down by 10 seconds. And if no one bids during that time, you win. So there's all kinds of items on the Deal Dash website. Someone actually won a brand new Jeep for $1,875. And check this out. A Nintendo Switch went for $22. And if you run out of bids, don't worry. You can always use the buy it now feature. If there's something you just have to have, you can just buy it now. And in return, they'll refund the bids back into your account. So it's a win-win situation. Here's somebody that used the buy it now feature with the AirPods Pro. Some auctions can take hours and even days to end. So this does require a little time and patience. Also, they only ship within the United States and Canada. But if you enjoy the thrill of bidding and want to grab some fantastic deals, use my link with the promo code and you'll get 100 free extra bids for your first bid pack purchase. And here's the best part. If you don't win an auction using these bids or simply don't enjoy the experience, just reach out to Deal Dash. You'll get your money back, no questions asked, on your first bid pack purchase. So do me a favor, check out Deal Dash. Use my promo code for those extra bids. Considering you can get a full refund, you don't have much to lose other than getting some killer deals. You can find the link in the description of this video. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think and let me know if you get any crazy deals. I can't wait to hear what you found on Deal Dash. But where does it come in that she poisoned him? Because how do we know that that he didn't want the pills? Like, how do we know she poisoned him and he didn't take them? How do we know this wasn't an accidental? Let me know in the chat. I'm new to this.
Did the defendant say whether anyone else was in their home other than the defendant, her husband Eric Richins, and their 3 young children?
No, she stated no one else was in the home.
Turning now to the defendant's statements regarding whether she performed CPR on her husband, okay?
Okay.
Did the defendant tell investigators when they arrived at her home shortly after she called 911 whether or not she performed CPR on Eric Richins?
Yes, she reported that she did.
I'm going to refer to someone now as defendant's best friend. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
What, if anything, did the defendant tell her best friend regarding whether she performed CPR on Eric Richins?
Investigators found text messages between the defendant and her best friend that was her explanation to her friend that she conducted CPR on Eric prior to EMS arrival.
So they can't even use best friend's name? Like, even her first name? This just seems so secretive to me. No, you're not old and you're not lost, love of God. This is all new to me as well. I'm just wondering why it's so secretive. I've never heard, like, people not be named, especially someone like a best friend.
And do those text messages read, "I pumped
It
so
is.
damn hard,
It is, Tiff.
so hard, screaming at him to come back to life"?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. She's crying.
You testified earlier, Detective, that EMS responded. Have you interviewed the first EMS responder?
Yes, I have.
What observations did that EMS responder make?
They told me that when they arrived, they began CPR compressions on Eric, and that upon beginning those compressions, Eric began to foam at the mouth. He stated that that observation indicated that CPR was not likely conducted before he arrived.
Detective, as part of your investigation, did you look into whether Eric Richins used illicit drugs?
Yes.
What did you determine?
Based on the interviews that we conducted with those who knew Eric well, all stated that he did not use illicit drugs other than consuming THC gummies on occasion.
Did they do talk? Oh, I guess, never mind.
Do those
Scratch that.
that you spoke to include Eric's 2 best friends that he's known since high school?
Yes, both made the same statement, that they never knew Eric to use any illicit substances other than the THC gummies.
I think she's worried about her
When I
hiney.
reference a hunting guide in Mexico by the initials
Wait,
TR,
wait.
do you know who I'm referring to?
Yes.
Did you speak to this?
Okay, we've got yet another person being protected in Mexico. A quote-unquote hunting guide. I mean, I'm not even focused on the fact that this chick, Chris Watts, her husband. I'm more shook that all these people are being protected. This is insanity.
Hunting guide.
Other Summit County detectives did, yes.
And what did this hunting guide, if anything, say about Eric Richins using illicit drugs while hunting in Mexico?
The guide told detectives that several of their clients, when they come to Mexico, will seek out someone that can put them in contact with illicit substances
Boom.
while they are
There you go.
down there for their hunt.
There you go.
He stated that Eric Richins was not one of these, that Eric was solely focused on the hunt.
Not buying it. Not know if I'm buying
Has the
that.
defendant made any statements regarding whether her husband, Eric Richins, used illicit drugs other than THC?
Okay. Let's
Yes.
break down the Mexican hunt guide interview. They're saying, oh, he said Eric Richins wasn't one of them. Now, what guy in Mexico is going to admit, knowing that FBI from America is coming to question you about someone who came and hunted with you on your hunts and died of fentanyl overdose, and they want to know if you supplied him with any when he was in Mexico. The dude's gonna be like, nope, everybody but him did it. All his buddies did, but nope, that particular dude, nope, never touched it. I'm not buying it. I think that this has drugs written all over it, and I'm not sold that this chick planned anything.
In several statements made by the defendant throughout the investigation, there have been at least 10 times that she has said that Eric does not use illicit substances and did not use illicit substances.
And just to be clear, other than THC.
Other than the THC gummies, correct.
On the night Eric Richins died, did investigators search the Richins home?
Yes.
Did they find any illicit drugs?
No.
Did they find any paraphernalia or packaging or other evidence of illicit drugs?
No.
Did they find fentanyl anywhere in the home?
Only that which was in Eric's body.
I don't know how much, if I was on a jury and I'm sitting here and I've got this Mexican hunting guide. What do they hunt in Mexico, by the way? Saying that, oh, their friends did, but Eric was never one of those. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, and I think that could give me reasonable doubt.
Now shift.
I mean, and just her being mad about a house or something that they were going to buy. I don't know if that would be motive for murder. A house?
Detective, from the night of Eric's death to a second drug buy initiated before his death and concluded after his death, okay?
Okay.
What, if anything, did CL...
Okay, so that's why all these people are CL, Associate 1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is because this Eric dude had ties in Mexico. Holy... This is going to be a sticky, dirty case. The hunting guide has links to the cartel. I think everybody in Mexico who sells drugs or is involved in drugs has links to the cartel, right? In some way, shape, or form. I just really don't know about all this. I don't like the secretiveness and the connections in Mexico that say, oh, his buddies bought pills, but not him. I don't know. I'd like to see all this drug talk kind of on the side and give me the motive. Like, what made this lady want to kill her husband? Whether or not she strangled him, poisoned him, stabbed him, hit him with a car. What? Why? Why? I know it's all, like sensational out there with this book. Oh my God, she wrote a grief book. Her husband died of fentanyl and she's charged with his murder. But what really happened? Okay, tough tip. Just wait, Jay. She was $4 million in debt to scary people when she murdered him. She had tried to change his life insurance policy to be the beneficiary. The house had already closed. Who was the beneficiary before her, if not his wife?
Tell you about the defendant approaching CL a second time for fentanyl.
CL told us that approximately a week after delivering the first load of fentanyl, the defendant reached out to her again by text or call and said that she wanted some more fentanyl that was stronger than the previous batch.
Oh, so it sounds like she got some and then wanted more. Wait a minute. Stronger. Does this make sense? If we really break this down, they tell us that like the teeny tiny tip of a pen of fentanyl can kill you. she's asking for something stronger than the last batch. How much more stronger can you get if the tip of a pen can kill you? I'm curious. I mean, she's not using like rat poison. What the hell? This doesn't make sense. She had a prenup? 4 other life insurance policies? Oh shit. How do you get $4 million in debt and to who? His business partner on one of them, and he had just changed the other one to be his sister? Oh boy. Sounds like there was trouble in paradise.
And in response, what, if anything, did CL do?
CL told us that she again reached out to acquaintance 1 because she had lost the phone number for acquaintance 2, and again requested from acquaintance 1 that she provide her with the phone number for acquaintance 2. She also made other statements in Facebook messages regarding that request.
In your interview, or detective's interview rather, with acquaintance 1, did she corroborate that indeed CL reached back out to her asking for acquaintance 2's phone number?
Yes, in the same Facebook Messenger, it showed the 2 different contacts on the 2 different dates.
And does the second Facebook message, was it dated February 25th, 2022 at 9:40 p.m.?
Yes.
And does it read, "I need those again, but more, and I don't got a ride, I lost your friend's number"?
Correct.
Okay. So she had bought some. Maybe she gave him some and it wasn't enough to like kill him. So she wanted ones that were a higher dose. I mean, I guess if you're going to like off somebody and you see all these fentanyl overdoses, you would think that would be an easy way to do it. And you don't think that drug people are going to talk.
Did CL and acquaintance 1 both say that acquaintance 1 provided CL with acquaintance 2's phone number again?
Yes.
What then, if anything, did CL do with acquaintance 2's phone number the second time?
CL told us that she again contacted acquaintance 2 and arranged again to meet up at the same Maverick gas station in Draper to purchase again 15 to 30, this time blue round pills that she understood to be.
There we go.
Between, on the way to the Draper and Maverick, the second time, when she purchased 15, I'm sorry, did you say 15 to 30? What,
Yes, 15 to 30 pills.
which she believed to be fentanyl. Did she make any stops along the way?
Yes, CL told us that the second time that she procured fentanyl for the defendant, she did not have a vehicle to drive on that date. She said that she reached out to a friend, acquaintance 3,
Oh my God.
and asked that he give her a ride to go purchase fentanyl. She said that he did pick her up, that they traveled from Heber City to the defendant's home in Francis, where, according to CL, the defendant had told her there was a check waiting under the mat at the defendant's home. She said that she checked under the mat and didn't find a check, and so she knocked on the defendant's door, and the defendant came to the door and wrote her a check from her business, from the defendant's business,
Hi, Shell.
for $1,300 for the purchase of the fentanyl. CL told us that afterwards
What she's going to do is she's like probably thinking, all right, well, I've got all these drug dealers, acquaintance 1, acquaintance 2, acquaintance 3, CL, the dude in Mexico. And she's thinking, I'm going to deny everything. She probably thought they're going to believe me over them. Is that what you think?
the CL, the defendant had told her there was a check waiting under the mat at the defendant's home. She said that she checked under the mat and didn't find a check, and so she knocked on the defendant's door, and the defendant came to the door and wrote her a check from her business, from the defendant's business, for $1,300 for the purchase of the fentanyl. CL told us that afterwards they
Okay, so she's obviously going to claim that the $1,300 was from something else. CL is saying it's for the fentanyl, and she's agreeing that, yeah, I wrote her a check. And then when he said for the fentanyl, she shook her head no. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to jump on the psycho bandwagon just yet.
The second time that she procured fentanyl for the defendant, she did not have a vehicle to drive on that date. She said that she reached out to a friend, acquaintance 3, and asked that he give her a ride to go purchase fentanyl. She said that he did pick her up, that they traveled from Heber City to the defendant's home in Francis, where, according to CL, the defendant had told her there was a check waiting under the mat at the defendant's home. She said that she checked under the mat and didn't find a check, and so she knocked on the defendant's door, and the defendant came to the door and wrote her a check from her business, from the defendant's business, for $1,300 for the purchase of the fentanyl. CL told us that afterwards they drove to the America First Credit Union in Heber City, where CL banks, and cashed the check and deposited $300 of it into her account at America First Credit Union. She said that after stopping at the bank and getting the cash, they then drove to the Maverick gas station in Draper and purchased the pills from acquaintance 2.
Did investigators execute a warrant at the America First Credit Union in Heber?
Yes, and that warrant returned a copy of the check written from the defendant's business account in the name of CL, and a receipt that shows that it was cashed and that $300 were deposited into CL's account.
Who is CL?
And then CL ultimately, being driven by acquaintance 3, went to the Maverick in Draper and purchased fentanyl a second time from acquaintance 2.
Correct.
What, if anything, does acquaintance 2 say that corroborates CL's testimony?
Acquaintance 2 in his interview stated that he remembered selling fentanyl to a friend of acquaintance 1's on 2 separate occasions at the same Maverick gas station in Draper.
For God's sake.
He also said that he remembered the second time that he sold her the pills that CL was with another person who matched the age and gender of acquaintance 3.
Maybe they need to patrol the Maverick.
Have you interviewed acquaintance 3?
Yes.
What, if anything, does acquaintance 3 say to corroborate CL's testimony?
Acquaintance 3 corroborated all the same details that CL told us about that day, and in fact showed us text messages on his phone that also corroborated that story.
Detective, I'm going to ask you now some questions about what are commonly known as bug-out bags, okay?
Bug-out bags. Preppers.
Did investigators execute several search warrants on the defendant's home or the family home?
Yes.
Did those warrants identify what are commonly known as bug-out bags?
Yes. There were several duffel bags stored in the garage, along with backpack-sized day packs, and each was identical and labeled for a different member of the Richins family. Those backpacks were seized subject to a warrant and were inventoried and photographed. Inside the bags, detective...
What does she possibly have to... Yeah, something about her doesn't look right. I'm in agreement with that. Something... This is how I feel about it right now. Tough Tiff. Right here.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Something ain't right. For real.
Inside the bags, detectives located several items that would be useful in an emergency situation. But the most interesting were documents needed for travel for each member of the family. Each bag contained a photocopy of a state-issued ID in the children's case, along with passports for Eric and the defendant, as well as global entry travel cards for both Eric and the defendant.
Did those bags also contain clothing, toiletries, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Do detectives know when those bags were packed?
No.
Detective, it's O'Driscoll, right?
Correct.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to follow a little bit the same timeline, just so we kind of keep things together. You said you reviewed the body cam that was provided on the night that Eric passed away, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that Kouri made a statement that night to police, a written statement?
Correct.
Okay. And she told them that she had made a drink, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so they were aware of that. Was there anything in that body cam or investigation that talks about them looking for a glass that a drink had been made in?
No.
Okay. But you said that they searched for illicit drugs, correct?
I don't know if they searched for illicit drugs, but they searched the home.
Okay, so they searched the home that night, knowing that he had a drink right before he went to bed, and made no note that they had recovered glasses, looked for glasses, anything along those lines, correct?
Not to my understanding.
You also testified that when you interviewed CL, she was working on both a personal and, I'm going to say, professional capacity for Kouri, correct?
Correct.
And she was cleaning houses, that she was both cleaning Kouri's personal home, and then she would clean homes that were investment properties, correct?
CL told us that she cleaned both homes for Miss Richins' business, as well as at another time frame,
CL.
she cleaned their personal home.
The hell out of
So
here.
not necessarily at the same time.
But at the time, she was cleaning homes for the business, correct?
Which time are you referring to?
On or about the time leading up to or during your investigation, end of the year, end of 2021, beginning of 2022?
At that time, from my understanding, what CL told us, she was cleaning only investment properties belonging to the Richins Realty Company.
And she was getting compensated for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so the check that you issued the search warrant on for the bank, that was written from Kouri's business account, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it could very well be that Kouri was paying her for cleaning houses, correct?
CL.
I don't want to speculate.
I didn't even
but
put that together, Mike.
Could be,
It's
despite
possible.
what CL said, correct? Okay.
Okay, right there.
You
He couldn't dispute that right there. That was one point right there. I mean, CL was hired to clean the house. It was written out of the business account. Proved that it was for fentanyl. For Kouri. Now, I don't like this crazy lady as much as any more than you guys do. But you got to admit, if you're sitting on a jury and you hear that kind of stuff.
the time leading up to or during your investigation, end of the year, end of 2021, beginning of 2022?
At that time, from my understanding, what CL told us, she was cleaning only investment properties belonging to the Richins Realty Company.
And she was getting compensated for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so the check that you issued the search warrant on for the bank, that was written from Kouri's business account, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it could very well be that Kouri was paying her for cleaning houses, correct?
I don't want to speculate, but
It could be,
It's
despite
possible.
what CL said, correct? Okay. You also testified that CL was progressing through her drug court program, and you were optimistic about how she would do in it, correct?
no, I testified that she was optimistic about her own
I'm
personal
sorry if I
recovery.
misstate that. How long were you investigating CL? When did you begin investigating CL?
I don't know an exact date, but the beginning of 2023.
Okay. And were you monitoring what she was doing at that time?
Yes,
Okay. Because you knew she had a boyfriend or this guy in Vegas, some other details about her life, correct?
initially at the outset of investigating CL, no, we didn't know all those details.
But over the course of your investigation, you learned them?
Correct.
Did you have CL's phone, correct?
Summit County Sheriff's Office evidence text do.
But you've reviewed it?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified about text messages between CL and the defendant on or about this time period you're looking at in February, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you review any other information prior to that time about contact that CL and the defendant had had?
I'm unsure,
Did you even
but
look?
it's possible that we looked into communications. In this investigation, initial stages, we looked into communications with everybody that the defendant had been communicating with.
Okay. But you don't recall, or you didn't look for a pattern of communication between CL and the defendant, is that correct? You were focused on February?
I guess that depends on what stages of the investigation you're talking about.
At all.
I'm talking about any of them. Did you ever look and see if CL and the defendant texted each other about anything on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. And how far back did those go?
I'm not sure on exact dates again, but into 2021.
Hi, Jenny.
So for a period of time, because CL is working for the defendant, there's communication, correct?
Correct.
And nowhere in the communication between CL and defendant are there any text messages asking for drugs, correct?
We didn't find any, but there were also gaps in timeframes in the phones when
Okay.
we looked at them.
But they didn't do long-term search. There's another bonus for her.
You said you didn't make any promises to CL, is that correct?
Correct. No specific promises.
Okay. You did, however, tell her, let me back up. When was the first interview you had with CL?
I believe it was April 28th or 26th. I believe it was the 26th.
Did you have any contact with her prior to that?
No.
Did anybody from law enforcement have contact with her prior to that?
Not from our office.
You don't know if anyone else talked to her?
I don't.
Okay. Now, part of this came out of a raid or something along the lines that was coordinated with
A raid?
at least ATF and some other agencies, correct?
CL's home was subject to a search warrant.
Wait, what? Wait a minute. There was a raid on CL's house at one point? And CL's being protected in this? I want to hear her question again. She's a bitch, but she's making some really good points.
Did it?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified about text messages between CL and the defendant on or about this time period you're looking at in February, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you review any other information prior to that time about contact that CL and the defendant had had?
I'm unsure,
Did you even
But
look?
it's possible that we looked into communications. In this investigation, initial stages, we looked into communications with everybody that the defendant had been communicating with.
Okay. But you don't recall, or you didn't look for a pattern of communication between CL and the defendant?
They didn't look
is
for a
that
pattern.
correct?
He contradicts
You were
himself.
focused on February?
I guess that depends on what stages of the investigation you're talking about.
I'm talking about any of them. Did you ever look and see if CL and the defendant texted each other about anything on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. And how far back did those go?
I'm not sure on exact dates again, but into 2021.
For a period of time, because CL is working for the defendant, there's communication, correct?
Correct.
And nowhere in the communication between CL and defendant are there any text messages asking for drugs, correct?
We didn't find any, but there were also gaps in time frames in the phones when
Okay.
we looked at them.
Now, I want to also talk about, you said you didn't make any promises to CL, is that correct?
Correct. No specific promises.
Okay.
Here we go. Coke
You
number
did,
2.
however, tell her, let me back up. When was the first interview you had with CL?
I believe it was April 28th or 26th. I believe it was the 26th.
Did you have any contact with her prior to that?
No.
Did anybody from law enforcement have contact with her prior to that?
Not from our office.
You don't know if anyone else talked to her?
I don't.
Okay. Now, part of this
Here we go.
came out of a raid or something along the lines that was coordinated with at least ATF and some other agencies, correct?
CL's home was subject to a search warrant based on information that we had gathered during our investigation into CL.
Okay. And that search warrant would essentially contradict that she was doing well and what she was supposed to be doing in drug court, correct?
Oh.
She was buying drugs, wasn't she?
We didn't know that. We knew that she was associating with people that we knew had active warrants.
Oh. He just said that CL was confident in her recovery, that everything was going to be okay, that she was feeling like it's all going to be all right. I'm confident in my recovery this time. And guess what? Lies. Because this lawyer just exposed the fact that they raided her home, but he won't admit that she was buying drugs. She was associating with people that had warrants. That gives them grounds to search her home. Nope, not liking this at all.
For drug charges.
Okay. And that would be a violation of drug court conditions, correct?
From my understanding, yes, but I don't know the details of that.
Okay. And as part of that search warrant, were individuals arrested?
CL was arrested, yes.
Oh
There were
my
other individuals
God!
who were arrested too, correct?
Hold on.
What the are you doing
Wait.
here?
This deserves a big what?
What?
CL was arrested. Was she buying drugs? We don't know that. She was hanging out with people that have active warrants. Was anybody arrested that day? Long pause. CL was arrested. Oh shit.
I'm not recalling other individuals that were arrested on the date that the warrant was
Only
served.
her, too. Only
Were
her.
any drugs recovered at the home?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but wait. They recovered drugs. She was associating with people with active warrants, but she was the only one arrested. What about the people with the active warrants? What was the point? I could see if they raided her house to get to the people that had the active warrants. No. CL's not in recovery. CL's not doing well. Work. No.
She was buying drugs, wasn't she?
We didn't know that. We knew that she was associating with people that we knew had active warrants for drug charges.
Okay. And that would be a violation of drug court conditions, correct?
From my understanding, yes, but I don't know the details of that.
Okay.
Then why'd
And as
you
part of
raid
that
her?
search warrant, were individuals arrested?
CL was arrested, yes.
There were other individuals who were arrested too, correct?
I'm not recalling other individuals that were arrested on the date that the warrant was served.
Okay. Were any drugs recovered at the home?
Yes.
Oh, hells no.
And you,
How do we know that CL's not the one responsible? What the hell's going on here?
firearm from CL's bedroom, correct?
She had a firearm too?
And that would be a violation of her drug court conditions, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in this first interview in April, you begin the interview. Give me a moment here to find the right notes. By explaining to CL essentially how dire of a situation she's in, correct?
I don't have the interview memorized, but I know we talked about that, yes.
Okay, well, you told her that she was on probation to drug court for 4 first-degree felonies, correct?
Correct.
Okay, a violation of that is a potential prison sentence, correct?
It would depend on the prosecutor, but that's potentially true.
Okay, a first-degree felony carries a possible penalty
Tell
of
'em.
life in prison, correct?
Times 4.
I don't know. I would have to reference the code.
They're
So you
sugarcoating
also-
CL here.
So you told her she was facing problems with that, correct? That
Correct.
this would be a violation. So she'd be on the hook for 4 first-degree felonies.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. And you also told her that having the firearm could potentially be a new crime, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you also told her that the U.S. Attorney's Office was essentially on board with screening drug distribution charges, correct?
On board?
I'm happy to play it if you don't remember.
Oh, shit.
I don't remember specifically.
Do you remember talking to her about potential federal charges?
Yes.
Okay. So she was aware that not only was she facing multiple first-degree felony prison sentences, she was also potentially facing federal charges, correct?
Correct.
And during that initial interview, she tells you that she didn't buy fentanyl, correct?
Oh, CL lied too.
I don't know if she made that specific statement, but she talked about not knowing anything about fentanyl.
Okay.
Wow.
And that interview lasted about an hour and 19 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that interview ends, well, with you telling her, well, several times you tell her to think through all of this and let you know if she wants to help, correct?
Yes, I gave her the opportunity to tell us up front whether she was willing to cooperate or if we should just not bother interviewing her anymore.
Okay. But this is after you essentially tell her that she has the potential of doing a considerable amount of state and federal prison time, potentially.
Yes, this is a common tactic in law enforcement to be able to leverage charges for information.
Okay. In fact, you did in this case leverage charges for information because you told her that you didn't care about first-degree felonies or federal charges. What you cared about was information about Kouri getting drugs, correct?
I told her that I was interested in the information that she may know about this case.
Okay. But you told her also that Eric died of a fentanyl overdose, correct?
Correct.
And you told her that you thought that Kouri gave him the drugs, correct?
I did not specifically say that.
You alluded to the fact that you needed information about Kouri getting fentanyl because that's how Eric died, correct?
I don't know if I made that specific statement, but the information that we tried to convey to CL was that we wanted to know the information that she may have regarding Eric's death.
Okay. And you didn't care about any additional charges, all you cared about was that information, correct?
As I said previously, we expressed to her that the information that she may have was more valuable to us than seeking charges against her.
Okay. All right. And then you interview her 2 more times, is that right?
No, there were, I believe, 3 more after our first one.
Okay. Were all of those
4 interviews?
audio and video recorded?
Yes,
Okay. And those were turned over to the state in this case, correct? The state being the
Correct.
prosecutor's office? Okay. Now, forgive me because with all these interviews, I'm not sure which one comes from which. You, in subsequent interviews, tell CL that she needs to give good enough details that will ensure that Kouri gets convicted of murder, correct?
I don't know if I made that specific statement, but I did express to her that the information that she gave us needed to be specific enough that we could corroborate it and that it could be presented to a courtroom.
Okay. And that she was, quote, screwed at this point for a minute or a few years if there's not cooperation, correct?
No, I never made such statement.
Okay. Did you ever tell her this was her get out of jail free card?
No, I did not.
Okay. Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-oh. He hesitated on that.
Now, at some point, CL tells you that in one of the interviews,
Something like that.
that Kouri contacted her between December and February to obtain prescription pills for an investor, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she doesn't specifically state fentanyl at that point, correct?
Are you referring to CL?
I'm referring to CL.
I don't remember, but I don't believe so.
Okay. And in fact, I'm guessing it's something where on the second or third interview, CL says that those first pills, well, never says those first pills are fentanyl, correct? It never says that Kouri asked for fentanyl, correct?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase the question?
Sorry. In those first, in the first transaction, so initially CL tells you that there were 3 transactions prior to Eric's death, correct?
Yes, and what I have to say here is that
Well,
none
that
of,
was a yes or no question.
but none of the information that we got from CL was perfectly chronological. We had to piece it together over multiple interviews to come to the conclusion that we came to.
Because you told her you needed something more specific to ensure that Kouri gets convicted, right?
No, we told her that we needed more details on what she was talking about and specific dates and times.
Okay. But in the first one, she says there's 3 transactions prior to Eric's death, correct?
At some point in our interviews, she told us there were 3 total transactions.
Okay. And she says that Kouri was only looking for prescription pills or hydrocodone pills, to be specific, correct?
CL referred to them as Roxy's.
Okay. What do you know Roxy's to be?
They can be different things in the drug world. They can either be counterfeit pills that are meant to look like a prescription pill, or they can be actual prescription pills, but generally they're known to be opiate-based drugs, whether illicit or pharmaceutical.
Okay, so something along the lines of hydrocodone or Oxycontin or something along those lines, correct?
It could be, yes.
Okay. And she specifically says that she was looking for $900 worth of fentanyl pills, correct?
I don't know if initially, but she did make the statement of $900 at one point in one of our interviews.
How much are these pills on the street?
And she says that Kouri told her to leave the pills at an outdoor fire pit at the Midway house where there was cash, correct?
I don't know if she made that exact statement, but yes, she told us that at some point in part of the exchange that she was instructed to leave pills in an outdoor fire pit in a house in Midway.
Okay. And in fact, you sat there with her in this interview and did house searches, correct? Trying to figure out which house this was.
Yes.
Okay. Because she couldn't really tell you which house it was, correct?
She couldn't give us an address, but she was confident that she could find it if she could drive there.
Okay. And did you take her for a drive there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever do any follow-up investigation on whether or not that house ever sold?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that that house sold sometime in January of 2022, correct?
From what I understand, yes.
Okay. So Ms. Richins no longer owned that home or occupied that home or had access to that home in February, correct?
I don't know.
Well, the house was owned by somebody else, right?
Again, I don't know.
Well, you said it closed in January of 2022.
From the information that I was told from other people, other investigators that had looked into that, I was told that Ms. Richins owned the house at some point and that it sold at some point. I don't know dates exactly. or
Okay, don't you
times.
think that date would be important if CL's telling you that she had access to the home and was there in February?
Possibly.
That might be a good fact to know.
Got to agree there.
Okay. CL then does subsequent interviews, correct?
Yes, we had multiple interviews with her.
Okay. And after being told that she needs to be more specific, as your words are, correct? She now says that it was specifically fentanyl that Kouri asked for, correct?
Correct.
And that she didn't actually take the pills to that house in Midway. It was a hand-to-hand transaction, correct?
Like I said, she went back and forth on her memory on which instances referred to which transactions. And ultimately, she told us that she was sure that the first transaction of fentanyl was a hand-to-hand transaction in her driveway.
Okay. And was what's been referred to as acquaintance 3, was that in regard to that transaction?
No,
Okay.
was the second transaction.
Were you ever to corroborate, was anyone with her that could corroborate that she saw CL hand Kouri drugs?
Not that I know of.
And then she states that now there was a third transaction that occurred after Eric's death, correct?
She didn't make the
After?
statement that it was after Eric's death, but she told us there were 3 total transactions.
So the information contained in the state's amended information, you don't know where that came from?
Which information are you referring
That
to?
she purchased drugs after Eric's death?
Yes, I do know where it came from.
Okay. And you're saying CL did not sell drugs to Kouri after Eric's death?
CL could not remember specific dates and did not make mention that the transaction happened after Eric's death. But when presented with digital evidence from other witnesses, she confirmed that that was most likely correct.
Okay. So she just agreed with your scenario of events, correct?
No, in fact, several times during our interview, she told us that as we presented her more information, it helped her remember more.
Okay.
I'm sure it did.
So as you're telling her to be more specific, you're providing her with information that you're gaining in the case, and she's saying, now I remember. Accurate?
Yes.
She's a good lawyer, guys.
All right. You also testified that you interviewed 2 of Eric's best friends, right?
Yes.
And during one of those interviews,
I know, right, Potato? Horrible witness. If that's what they've got.
so I'm going to
oh,
go back
no.
to CL for just a second. On this transaction that you allege that this check was used for, or the state alleges this check was used for, you testified that she picked up the check that was written on Kouri's business account and cashed it, right?
Correct.
And drove to the Maverick and purchased fentanyl.
She didn't drive, but she was
Someone
driving.
drove her,
Yes.
okay? And the person with her corroborates that.
Correct.
And that third witness never saw CL give those drugs to Kouri, correct? Acquaintance 3 never saw that?
Acquaintance 3 didn't tell us that he ever saw that, no.
Okay. In fact, there's no independent witness to corroborate that CL gave Ms. Kouri those drugs, correct?
He's gonna.
No eyewitnesses that we have identified.
Oh, my gosh.
But the investigation is ongoing.
This is a nightmare.
And CL is currently out of custody, right?
Depends on your definition of custody, but she's not incarcerated, no.
Not incarcerated, she's on, I think, ankle monitor and not to leave the county, right?
Correct.
But following your interviews with her, she was released from jail.
Not immediately, no. She worked with the prosecutor in the other county where her drug court is and came to a resolution as to those charges against her.
God,
And part of that was being released on ankle monitor.
Okay, so in exchange
4
for
felonies.
the testimony, or not testimony, in exchange for the information that she provided to you, and a deal was worked out where she was placed, essentially released from jail on the order to show cause, correct?
I don't know the specifics of what went on between the prosecutor and CL,
Okay.
but subsequent to our interviews, we reached out to the prosecutor's office and let them know that she was being cooperative. After that, I was not involved in any decisions regarding her release.
Okay, because that's up to the judge and whatnot.
Correct.
But you did communicate that to prosecutors?
Yes.
That she gave you the information you needed?
That she was being cooperative with our investigation, yes.
All right, I want to turn now to your interview, and I'm going to use initials. Are you okay with that?
Why not? We've been doing it all day.
You had an interview with one of Eric's friends. His initials are JS. Do you recall that?
Yes,
JS.
That
no.
interview occurred about April 20th. Is that correct?
that seems right. I don't know a specific date, but
Okay. And during that interview, he discussed, or you discussed with him, that he and another individual were essentially Eric's best friends, correct?
Ms. Lozera, my apologies.
Yes.
April 20th of which year?
Oh, 2023.
Three.
I apologize.
Thank you.
At any point during that interview, did JS mention that Eric had said that at any point during he and Kouri's marriage, he was concerned that Kouri was attempting to poison him?
I don't recall, but I don't think so.
In fact, you present him essentially three scenarios of what could have happened to Eric, correct? That he potentially did it to himself knowingly, that someone else did it to him, or that it was accidental, right? And you specifically ask him if he thinks Kouri would have done it, and he says, no, in my gut, I don't believe so, correct?
I don't know if that was a direct quote, but yes, he said that he didn't believe that she would have done it.
And he also states during that interview that at the time of his death, Eric and Kouri's marriage was in a really good place.
Yes.
Correct. Now, he also details or talks about a falling out that he and Eric had over the course of their friendship, correct?
Yes, that sounds familiar.
And that Eric and his other friend that he refers to in this interview actually had a falling out right before Eric passed away, correct?
Yes.
You also talk about,
Weird.
or he talks about the fact that, you know, all three of them at different times had marital problems that they had helped each other through, correct?
JS told me that he and Eric and their other friend would confide in each other about their marriages and would share information, and that was how he had the insight that he had into Eric's life.
Okay.
Sure.
What guys talk about.
He also talks about that Eric changed or created these trust documents, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And his understanding, based on what he said that Eric told him, was because Eric was pissed or upset about a relationship that Kouri had, correct?
Ruh-roh.
Or he thought she had.
I don't remember the specifics of that part of the interview, but I do remember that JS was aware that Eric had made the trust.
And he doesn't specifically say anywhere in that interview that the trust was made because he was mad about this home equity loan, correct?
JS expressed to us that he understood that the reason that Eric created the trust was to ensure his son's well-being if anything were to happen to him.
And he also expresses to you that because you asked him why it wasn't changed back, or because the sister was made the trustee, correct? And
I'm sorry, I don't understand the
the
question.
sister, so in those trust documents, sorry, that was a terrible question. In those trust documents, the sister was made the trustee, correct?
From what I understand, yes.
And you asked JS specifically, or somewhere along the lines of, if they were doing so well, why would he have not changed that back? Right?
Yes.
Okay. And he tells you that it was his way of ensuring that even if they were doing well at the time, if there was a divorce, he would get the last word in it, right?
I remember him using that phrase, getting the last word, yes.
Thanks, Tiff. I know what I'll be doing tonight.
All right. Now, you also testified today about this hunt that took place
In Mexico. This is going to be interesting. The Mexican hunt.
down in Mexico.
What are they hunting?
Right? Correct. And this hunt was February of 2022, correct?
I don't know specific dates, but I'm aware that Eric was on a hunt in Mexico shortly before his death.
When did he die, guys?
And JS tells you that he was really upset, actually leading in the days right before he passed away, about what had happened with this hunt, right?
Yes.
What happened?
And he was upset that they had paid an outfitter for a number of permits that they believed the outfitter had procured, correct?
Yes, from what I'm recalling, he was upset about the outfitter or the guide had not gotten enough permits for the amount of animals that they ended up taking, and it caused some concerns over legal requirements of tagging animals.
Okay.
What did
Was this outfitter
I have questions. So he died going to Mexico on a hunt, or died after going to Mexico on a hunt. Hi, Emmy. And then overdose, like on a hunt where this detective just admitted that his buddies bought pills, but he didn't. And then he goes on a hunt and then he ends up overdosing like a month later. Someone wants to say hi. Say hello. Done.
person that you investigated? Or that you interviewed?
Someone associated with that hunt and that outfit, yes. I'm not sure the exact association, but a contact for that outfitter.
Okay. So that outfitter was aware that they had made some serious problems for Eric with regard to how many animals they took in Mexico, correct? And
According.
in your subsequent investigation, you know that Eric had had some heated conversations, actually, the night before he passed, or the night that he passed away, with that outfitter, correct?
We received information about that, yeah.
Okay. In fact, he was searching how far it was to drive from Scottsdale down there, correct?
Ooh.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, his phone showed that search.
Okay. And Jay,
Oh, shit. So the guy who set up the hunt, he was arguing with the guy that set up the hunt? And he was actually looking up directions to go drive to this guy? Yikes.
also told you that he had information or believed that this outfitter was somehow connected to the cartel, correct?
I don't recall. That sounds familiar, but I don't recall if those were the words that he used.
But essentially, he was
He
made reference.
JS made a statement about the cartel when he was talking about Eric and that hunt.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
Counsel, would you approach for a minute?
Yes.
Good morning, Detective O'Driscoll.
And that's where it stops? Cartel?
What are you doing here?
Wha-
Like, what the fuck is this? And everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
Did I just hear what I think I heard?